My name is George McElravy, and I'll be your host for this introductory journey into the water. Joining me later today, special guest Todd Wynn. Todd is a professional dive instructor, the inventor of a very unique piece of dive equipment, and he'll also be our boat captain for our journey out to Molokini Marine Reserve, where we'll do the boat skills portion of this show. The skills we'll be working on today: entries and exits from both the beach and the boat, surface swimming, surface dives, descents, underwater swimming, ascents, and breath control. Although we're very fortunate to be filming in an ocean environment today, I want to encourage you to seek out whatever water is available to you. Lakes, reservoirs, rivers, streams, and springs are all potentially great dive sites. Practicing skills in a swimming pool is also a good way to learn before going out to an open water environment. Now we'll talk a little bit about the gear. Mask, fins, and snorkel. That's pretty much it. But there's a wide variety of masks to choose from, different shapes, sizes, as well as snorkels and fins. Different styles for different purposes. The most important thing is that it fits you and is comfortable. Masks. Masks come in a variety of shapes and sizes and styles, depending on what you're doing and what's comfortable for you. This is one of the original masks. It has a metal frame, tempered glass lens, and a rubber skirt. This skirt has a single seal. This was used for many years before the new styles came out. This is the next generation of mask. It also has a metal frame, tempered glass lens. This one has a silicone skirt with a double seal. This is now the state of the art. Today most masks are made with a plastic frame, still with tempered glass. This one has two separate lenses, a silicone skirt, and again with a double seal. Getting the right size mask is very important. This mask is smaller. The skirt has a smaller area around, so this would be for a small adult or a child. It does make a difference, so be sure your mask fits before you take it out of the store. The last mask I'll show you today is made more for free diving. It's a very low volume mask. It takes very little air from your lungs to equalize the pressure. This mask has two lenses. They are made out of tempered glass, and as you can see, it's very narrow from the front to the back. That's a low volume mask. This is a basic snorkel. It's in a shape of a J. Snorkels are the size and shape that they are so that you can exchange a lot of air. If they were any longer or narrower, you'd be breathing the same oxygen over and over until there would be no oxygen left. There are two ways to clear this snorkel: the blast method and displacement. The blast method would be when you come up from your dive, use the air in your lungs and blow sharply into the snorkel, and that will blast the water out. Make sure your next breath is slow and easy so you don't inhale any salt water. The other method for clearing this is displacement. When you're within about 2 or 3 feet of the surface and you're looking up, blow some air into the snorkel. That air will expand as you go up, displacing the water. Once you reach the surface, tuck your chin down, bring the snorkel out of the water, and you'll have a clear snorkel. This snorkel is quite a bit different than the basic J snorkel. It's made out of hard plastic, has a silicone mouthpiece, and this has purge valves. The purge valve is simply a hole in the snorkel with a silicone seal. It won't let water in, but when you blow out, it will let water out. This one has a purge valve at the bottom. It also has a purge valve at the top. So when you're swimming along at the surface and you get an unexpected wave of water over, that water will drain out before reaching your mouth. This snorkel is called the Impulse Snorkel. It's by US divers. Fins come in a variety of shapes and sizes. This is a very basic fin for snorkeling. You can also use it for diving down. It's made out of rubber, has a full foot pocket, and it's fairly rigid. For snorkeling, as long as your fin is comfortable, that's what you need. This particular fin has a split blade and vents for the water to go through. This makes for a little bit easier kicking. The foot pocket is silicone and it's very comfortable. This fin is especially made for free diving. As you can see, it has a much longer blade. It's very stiff. The foot pocket is very rigid and it displaces a lot of water quickly, making it virtually effortless to go down and come back up through the water. When you arrive at the beach, be sure and check the scene and the water conditions. Make sure they're what you want to be in. Breaking waves often make the water dirty and dangerous for entries and exits. If the conditions are great, go ahead and set your gear down. Be sure and put it back away from the water where the sand is dry or up in the grass. Get your gear out. You'll need to defog your mask, rinse it off in the water. Put your mask on, snorkel in, and fins in your hand. If you should fall down, you can see and you can breathe. Walking in on your own 2 feet is much safer. And then get your fins on once you're in the water. Wait for the waves, if there are any, to calm down. They usually come in sets. Then you can stroll out into the water, get where it's about waist deep or deeper, slide your fins on, turn over and go. When you're ready to come back, same thing in reverse. Be sure the waves are down. And keep your eye out to the open ocean. You're going to come into waist-deep water, slip your fins off, keep your mask and snorkel in place. Again, in case you fall, you can recover. Walk up onto the beach, out of the way of the ocean. On my first beach exit, I was able to swim into waist-deep water, take off my fins, and pretty much just turn around and walk out onto the dry sand. On this exit, however, as I swam into shallow water, I saw waves coming. One wave was about to break, so I ducked under it, and as waves come in sets, I swam back out a little bit, waited for those set waves to roll through, swim back into shallow water, take off the fins, and walk safely out onto the sand. Joining me today is Todd Wynn. Todd, thanks for joining us.
George, thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about freediving safety.
I'm ready.
My first question for you is, what are the 3 most important aspects, in your opinion, of freediving safety?
It's a great question, and we'll go over them simply, probably just in the list format, and then maybe touch on them each individually. The most important rule, without any question at all, is that you dive within your limits. Diving within your limits is pretty simple, as long as you are learning at a reasonable rate. The first few years or first even few months of freediving can be really exponential in terms of your growth. When you're diving, just initially, a 30-second breath hold feels like forever. As you progress, 45 seconds, a minute and 45, all these are well within the range of your average person. And before you know it, you're pulling 2-minute breath holds. Now, because you grow so quickly and so effectively, it's really important to rein it in a little bit and focus internally on how you feel inside. Really important that you listen to what your body's telling you and stay within your own personal limits. Everybody changes physiologically, especially when we free dive, and it's important to be aware of what your body's telling you. So, without question, first of all, stay within your limits, know your limits, and work with them. The second most important thing in freediving, and actually, I'm not sure these are equal or not equally important. I think all three rules are absolutely critical in their own regard. But the second rule in freediving is to make sure that you have a buddy with you. Freediving is not a solo activity. If you were to lose consciousness underwater, it's critical that there's someone to assist you. In this endeavor, your freedive buddy should stay above you during the time that you're underwater. You can then switch, and your buddy can be the diver, and you can be the observer. Critical that that person is constantly watching you during the dive. Turning their back on you, especially during your ascent, is unacceptable. Must always watch your dive partner. Third, and I think equally important in freediving, is that you're weighted correctly. Being weighted correctly is critical for many factors, one of which is physiological. As you come up, it's very important that you be positively buoyant at least 15 feet to the surface, from the 15-foot depth up to the surface. Most freedivers weight themselves so that they're neutrally buoyant at the depth that they operate at most. Oftentimes this will be 30 feet, 25, 40, in that range. But being positively buoyant 15 feet to the surface is critical. There's physiological reasons for this. One of them is the way your body processes oxygen. As you start a free dive, you ventilate yourself well. In doing so, you raise the oxygen levels in your tissue, and it allows you to have longer bottom times. Upon reaching the bottom, you're expending this oxygen, your body's metabolizing it, you're generating carbon dioxide, which is the trigger to breathe. And as you make your way back to the surface and your lungs expand back to their original volume, at this point, the oxygen is pulled back out of your tissue to fill that empty void. At this time, it's most critical that you're positively buoyant, for should you lose consciousness, floating to the surface is mandatory. If you float to the surface, you have a much higher probability of doing well. If you do not float to the surface and continue to sink downward, chances of recovery are much less.
We're out here at Molokini Marine Reserve off the coast of Maui in Hawaii. Todd is our captain today, and he'll be demonstrating some dives later on. Entering from the boat, you can do one of several entries. You can get all prepared, mask in place, snorkel in, fins on, and then just slide down into the water. The giant stride is good to use when the boat has a platform from which you can step anywhere from right at the water surface to about 3 feet up off the water. To do your giant stride, you want to have your mask and snorkel defogged and put in place. Slip your fins on, stand right at the edge of the platform, take a step, hold one hand over the mast plate, one hand over the strap to make sure your mast doesn't wash off when you go into the water. Once you've fallen into the water, make sure your mask is adjusted, clear the snorkel, make sure that first breath is a slow breath so you don't inhale salt water, and that's your giant stride entry. And thirdly, you can stand up on the boat, fins in hand, mask and snorkel in place, and jump in. And then put the fins on once you're in the water. Once you're under the water, it's time to kick. You can use one of 3 different methods: a flutter kick, a dolphin kick, and a sculling motion. Those are the 3 different types of kicks. First, the flutter kick. The flutter kick is an up and down motion, and you want to start that motion from your thighs, not from your knees. And allow your ankles to be relaxed so that the fins can go up and down. This will propel you through the water. That's a flutter kick. The next type of kick is a dolphin kick. This is my favorite. Dolphin kick is a double fin kick, moving both fins as a dolphin's tail or a fluke, going up and down. This kick can actually start from your head, and a wave of energy goes all the way through your hips, down through your legs, and finally into the fins. That's the dolphin kick. The last type of kick is just sculling. It allows you to move slowly through the water. You can work from your knees down to your feet and just gently move your feet. It'll move you slowly, allowing you time to look at the scenery. That's sculling. Surface dives. You want to be very relaxed when you're getting ready to do your surface dive. Take a few breaths. Take in a little bit bigger breath when you're ready to dive and hold it. You're going to bend at the waist, tuck your chin, and your feet are going to go up into the air. The weight of your feet and your legs are going to drive you down into the water effortlessly. Be sure and kick only after your fins go underwater. That's a head-first surface dive. Another type of surface dive is the feet-first surface dive. The objective here is to get your body up out of the water as far as possible, driving your legs down. To do this, you're going to use your arms and a scissors kick to push yourself up out of the water, and then use your arms again to drive yourself down through the water, where you can then level off and start your dive. After your surface dive, you're going to descend. It's very important to remember to equalize early and equalize often. You need to equalize your ears as well as your mask by blowing air into the mask space. That will push the mask off your face so that it doesn't squeeze as you descend through the water. You can pinch your nose and blow. That will equalize your ears. And you can just wiggle your jaw, and for some people that'll help them clear their ears. So while you're descending, be sure and equalize early, equalize often. And kick smoothly, kick gently, and relax. Now that you've swam a little ways underwater, it's time to ascend. It's very important to look up. Be sure you're not going to run into anything or anybody. Put one hand straight up over your head, point your eyes to the surface, and gently kick up to the top. Be sure and finish your free dive with enough air to go up slowly and make it to the surface comfortably. Never push it to the point where you're struggling to get to the top. That's your ascent.
When preparing for a dive, instead of the usual hyperventilation, it's better, much better, to take deep, slow breaths in and out. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. This oxygenates all your tissue and gets you ready to go. As you make your way down through the water column, equalization is critical. Stay ahead of it. Always clear early and often. By the time I'm down 15 or 20 feet, I'm feeling the pressure. 200 pounds on your chest. It's amazing. At 60 feet, the pressure is immense in the thorax. If you relax your diaphragm, you feel that pressure just melt away. At the bottom, I flare. Once you flare, the air all rushes up into the upper part of your chest. And on the way back to the surface, long, strong, slow fin kicks will get you where you need to go. Moving quickly upward is always important. As I come up, you see some bubbles. These are from my mask as the airspace expands and overflows the skirt.
At the beginning of the film, I mentioned that you've created a very unique piece of dive equipment. Why don't you tell us about it?
Sure. In that theme, and after doing a bunch of research, I decided it would be fun to have some sort of backup vision that you could wear on your wrist without an airspace required. And this is it. I call it a solo, and it's basically wrist-mounted vision. You can hold it up directly in front of your eye, see through the lens underwater without any air in between. The impetus behind the creation of the solo was primarily because a mask creates an airspace that has to be equalized. This airspace causes squeeze unless you fill it with air, and that air has to come from your lungs. Should you be wearing this, flip it open, take a look underwater at what you're looking at, and make your way back up. All the air stays in your lungs where it belongs. I have a website. It's deep6diving.com. It'll be up soon. Check it out.
We have now covered the essentials of snorkel and freedive safety, including entries and exits, swimming at the surface, surface dives, descents, underwater swimming, ascents, and most importantly, breath control. As you gain experience, you'll discover what works best for you. To shorten the learning curve, I suggest keeping a journal. I love going back and looking at my journals. I definitely remember things I would have otherwise forgotten. You can write in your buddy's name, place, date, and time, water conditions, marine life, and the equipment used. Most importantly, enjoy the water, be safe. This is George McElravy. Aloha.
Love is a paradise.